With great power comes great responsibility, and to whom much is given, much is expected. My guest for today will exactly unpack what that means for him. He's the man that you get to hear on radio Monday to Friday between 6 and 9 on UFM. He's known as PatCash, born Patrick Maloyi. We'll get to speak to him about and find exactly who is PatCash, where he comes from, and who and what happened to Patrick Maloyi. PatCash, good afternoon and welcome to episode News. Hey.
Thanks for inviting me. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
I mean, like I said, we get to hear you on radio every single day, Monday to Friday, or Sunday to Friday on UFM. But who's PetCash?
Oof. That's a question. I was born here. I was born on people's land here. My mother worked in Rustenburg as a migrant worker.
Okay.
She's from the Eastern Cape and met my father here. I grew up in Rustenburg and raised by a domestic worker who moved around a lot.
Okay.
At some point we moved away from Rustenburg. We ended up in the Eastern Cape. Went to school in Pretoria. For whatever reason, once I got to high school, realizing that my folks didn't have money to take me to tertiary. First, it was the option of going to the army. I loved the army.
Okay.
I think I sort of bought too much into the propaganda of those days of the SADF, the
Yeah.
guns. Then eventually it was radio. That was the only option that I had, obviously to move ahead. And then I got into radio. It's one of those longish stories.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get to talk about your radio journey, but I think that's where my interest is. So born in Rustenburg,
Yeah.
went to school in Haramkuwa, and then moved to Makapanstad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So during that period, and as you spoke about wanting to go to either going to the army or doing radio, but during the time in middle school and high school, did you have any other ambitions and dreams of doing something else besides those two?
Look, I mean, in our days, I was born in 1973. By the time I got to middle school in Toronto, it was 1986. It was the 10th anniversary of June 16. There wasn't much to dream about for a black child. It's only when I got to high school that, obviously loving, enjoying history, that I felt I could become a lawyer. But for me, once I got to matric, the option was to go to the army. From a very poor family. Maybe I should rephrase that. I'm from a family that didn't have much,
Okay.
because poverty is relative. All of us are poor. I would look at my mother. When I finished school in 1990, she was still earning 300 bucks a
Sure.
month. And so I figured, for me to break the cycle of poverty, I needed to forego any desires of a future, with family, with wife and kids. I needed to go to the bush where it could be me and a rifle,
Yeah.
and I could earn that money and send it back
Send
to
it
my
back home,
mother.
yeah.
For whatever reason, that was even hard to get into there. Very hard. I mean, information was not easily available. So you figured I'm gonna, because at the time when I did my matric, I went to a boarding school in Makapanstad.
Okay.
But my mother was living in the Eastern Cape, which is now KwaZulu-Natal, a town called Matatia.
Okay.
And she had moved with her employer. My mother never owned a house up until much later, her own house. So she would live wherever she worked, and that's how I was raised. So I went to school in Pretoria. Holidays, I'd go to Matatiel. It was a long distance. So by the time I finished my matric, stuck in Matatiel, the only option I had was to move up to Johannesburg, so I could go and hustle with friends that I went to boarding school with, who were from Soweto.
Oh, okay.
And it's from there that we realized that, dude, we don't have any other option. We must try and get into this radio thing, because even in high school I had this love, for radio, which you don't realize these sort of things sometimes. I would bunk school and go listen to Bob Mabena.
I think everybody bunked school to go listen to Bob for some odd reason. I don't know why, but everybody just bunked school and went to listen to Bob.
Yeah, so it was there, but remember as well that you want to be something you've never seen.
Yeah.
I'd never met a radio personality in my life. I didn't know anyone, in my vicinity. But once I realized that it's post, high school, I'm desperate. I'm looking for options. Army's not in the picture. A friend of mine actually had us walk from from North Street to the Centec Towers.
Okay.
You know,
In Auckland Park.
in Auckland Park. He kept on telling me that's where the SABC is. So we walked literally to the towers. When we
Yeah.
got to the towers, the groundsman was like, "No, you guys are looking for that building." So then it was radio from there. That's all I wanted to do. And shortly after that little journey to the Centec Tower, I left the family I was living with, because then I had moved from Atatiel. I was living with a friend of mine in Malatane in Soweto. And then, you know how it is, impatient. I wasn't getting any jobs. I ended up leaving the family, going back to Matatiel to find my mother had just lost her job, and coming back the following day and ending up at Park Station.
Sure.
One night became 3 months, became 9 months homeless.
Sure.
You know, while I was looking for opportunities. Yeah.
And how was that experience? How did that experience shape you, to be the person that you are today? I mean, those 9 months in the street of Johannesburg.
Look, I mean, with the greatest respect, the life that I grew up living was not too far from homelessness. Let's be honest, because I grew up living in people's backyards, but the difference is that now, you know, I'm in a public space. I don't have a place to stay. I can't get any food. And you know, being desperate teaches you a lot about yourself. It really does. But also learning how to hold on to a dream. You know, I developed a few disorders along the way, like eating disorders and stuff, because I never wanted to be dictated to by my stomach.
Okay.
You know, so it started with a night on the benches of the Park Station. During the day, you sleep in Jubet Park, and you spend the greater part of the morning looking for soup kitchens.
Yeah.
You know, one more moment you go into Bramfontein or you walk into Belgravia. That's why I know Joburg so well today.
Because you walk the streets, yeah.
I walked that place. And then I think along the way, I think 4 or 5 months into it, I just got tired of this merry-go-round. I chose to stop looking for food, chose to starve myself, and then I woke up from a park. I went to the SABC to go look for some guy that I had listened to in high school called Mabena. Remember when I walked into the reception of the SABC? I probably hadn't taken a bath, a proper one, in about a month.
Sure.
And here I am ambling past security like a mad. You know, go to the reception and I explain to them that I'm looking for Bob Mabena. I mean, a decent lady at reception, she had to cover her nose. And I arrived there at a time where, you know, he hadn't come into the building for his show. And he walks in, they call him at reception, and they're like, "This young man would like to see you." So I go over to him and I'm like, I need your help. I want to be on radio. So typical him, he looked at me and he said, "Why?" I gave him a stupid reason. I speak good English, man. I can rap. I speak good English and I can rap. And she looked at me and was like, "Okay, come back and see me in a couple of days." He gave me 7,000 rand to go to the School of Broadcasting at Wits, which was run by Malcolm Russell. At the time, Malcolm was with 702. And I think that's where the journey would have started. But there are other little stories in between, you know. Yeah.
Look, I'm going to delve into those little stories in between, because I think they tell a very interesting story. So what year was this when you met her?
Oh, goodness me. It probably was 91.
91.
Yeah, it was 91, yeah.
So then let's fast forward 5 years later. You then joined Voice of Soweto.
Yes.
Which is now called Josie FM.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
The Voice of Soweto story is an interesting one. After doing this training with Malcolm Russell, while I was at home looking for work, in between I'd go to the SABC. I was a very problematic kid. I would nag you. I was in there. I would have called Shadow Twilight one stage, gone to the SABC, she let me wash her car, she'd give me money. And one day I was sitting at home. I became a father pretty early.
Okay.
And Tim Modise had a top 40 on Friday. And he was running a competition. And he gave away a prize for a wrong answer. And then I you know, where I was renting, I asked him for a phone. So I called him in the studio. I was like, "No, you just awarded a prize for a wrong answer." You know? And he was like, "Listen, let's put you on air and set this thing straight."
Yeah.
Put me on air, I explained the correct answer. He apologizes to his listeners. Off air, he says to me, "Why don't you come in on Fridays and do like a hip hop update? You know, I'm unemployed. I'm gonna take this opportunity.
Listen, I'm going.
So I took the opportunity, which meant I had to go to Hillbrow then into these magazine stores and get magazines like The Source just to correlate
Yeah.
all this information. And I worked with Tim for a while, unofficially. And I think along the way, the bosses at Radio Metro, got angry with Tim for bringing this young man, putting him on air. He wasn't employed and everything like that. And then one evening after doing the slot, Tim called me aside and he said to me, "Listen, we can't continue our relationship, but there's a radio station that's starting at the old SABC building on Commissioner Street. It's called The Voice of Soweto. There's a man there called Patrick Maloyi, and I know him personally, that's Tim, but I'm not going to call him. You go there, they're looking for presenters. The relationship you've had with me will cut off, and we should hands." Following day, Embo to Voice of Soweto, true to life, I got there and I found Makapanstad and a couple of other guys. I told them about, me wanting to be a presenter, and I ticked all the boxes.
Yeah.
I wasn't from Soweto, so they were not going to hear me. Up until Matima came and he spoke for me, and eventually they put me as part of the team, part of the training. And by the time they went on air, I was their first voice on Voice of Soweto, even though I had been at the back of the queue. And that's how I started with Voice of Soweto.
Sure.
Yeah.
Interesting story. And then, so from Josie FM, wait.
And one day, look, I mean, even when I was starting out on radio, I never wanted to limit myself. I did a whole lot of things. I was a news editor, I was a sports editor, I had a talk show, I had this, I had that. And then one day, a gentleman from Prime Media came to the studio. They were recruiting new talent. And I think he was looking for news personnel. Gentleman's name is Malcolm Freed. I think he works for Bloomberg now.
Yeah,
he's Malcolm comes in and, they give him a list of people. Or he had names, I think. And these people would go in for interviews and stuff. I think on the odd day he was there, one of the 5 people he had chosen didn't pitch.
Okay.
And he was looking for somebody else. And I was like, I'll take the job. And then I went for an interview at the newly bought 94.7 Hyper Stereo.
Okay.
As a news reporter. Look, I took the job because it had medical aid. I'm going to be honest with you. NSL. I had a kid who had developed a growth on his thumb. It looked like a cancer growth. And I thought my kid was going to lose use of his hand. And when these guys offered me this thing, I mean, I had gotten training from the BBC, from Radio France International. Stella Hughes, beautiful woman, had trained us pretty well. I took this job.
Yeah.
Plus, it came with a bit of money. Community radio didn't pay us. They don't pay us, once
Stipends,
once
in a blue moon.
Once
every day.
Yeah, Bumita Gile, good man. That's how I got to 94.7 Hyper Stereo as a news reporter.
Okay.
And then one day I got information that Kaya FM was looking for news people. Because I was uncomfortable in that space at that 94.7 those days. I mean, it's not like what you see now. We would get calls from white folk, they'd call you,
And call you out.
Yeah, and ask you like, excuse me, before joining this station, where were you? And you proudly say, oh no, Voice of Soweto. And what happened there? It's not what you see now. I mean, I envy these guys that are having it so easy. So I heard that Kaya was looking for. Actually, the advert said talent. So I took a day off, dashed to that interview in Roseback, the old building.
Was it Newtown or Roseback?
No, it was still in Roseback. Okay. Got there, a group of people with, I think, Ferdinand Mabala, and if I remember well, was there. There was a woman, CEO, I think, Kat Dambe. And I got into the interview. The lady who was conducting the interview, her name just escapes me now. She had come in from Canada. It turned out that she was consulting for 94.7. I didn't know. So here I am, I'm sitting there. and they're offering me this job as a reporter. I'm like, no, I don't want to be a reporter. What do you want? I want to go on air.
Yeah.
No, we don't have positions on air. Okay, sorry guys. And then they asked me, why wouldn't you want to be on, a news reporter? I think I was a bit cocky. I said to them, because Prime Media does news better than you guys.
Oh wow.
Oh, that was my relationship. Then I left. My shift was starting at 12 in the afternoon. So I got in a taxi from Rosebank down Rivonia Road, to the old first Prime Media building.
Mm.
By the time I got there, my boss, Malcolm Free, editor, was already told that, hey,
Your person was here.
your guy who's coming in for the afternoon shift. I just interviewed him. Now, Malcolm, I wish him everything of the best. He called me into a soundproof studio. I hadn't even started my shift,
Mm.
and he had this weird nickname for me. He called me Copper. Copper. Okay, so we went into the studio, and it's like, okay, shoot straight with me. You went to Kaya for an interview, and you turned them down. Why did you go to Kaya in the first place, and why did you turn them down? And I was like, because I'm gonna go on air. I'm gonna be a presenter. And he was like, are you sure that's the only reason? Oh yeah, that's the only reason. And he was like, no, it's fine. We'll make arrangements. We'll speak to the program manager. We'll give you overnights on 94.7. And that's when my transition started.
Okay.
Getting off news and then going on
Graduating
air.
to, yeah.
I was doing the show just before Jeremy Mansfield on The Awakening in the early hours. And that's how I sort of got into the space of commercial radio.
So then, at some point, Kaya called you back for live and switched on.
Oh, there was a lot between
Okay.
that and 94.7.
That's it.
94.7, I think, and I'm going to be honest, I wasn't good enough. Yeah, we can say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can say it. I wasn't good enough. I got angry when they gave the show that I was eyeing to Alice Chapman.
Okay.
I got very angry. I also didn't appreciate how, when the relationship came to an end, how it was communicated to me. They had an Australian consultant called Ian Grace. Good man, very smart. He's responsible for tuning them in the early days.
Mm.
So I met Ian in the entertainment area, and he sat me down. And in his words, Australia, I need to say this to you, young man. You're okay, but I don't know if you realize that the listeners of this radio station don't like a person of your kind. Person of my kind? What do you mean? It's South Africa.
Mm.
It's like, listen, young man, there's still a very strong racial bias
Okay.
towards a particular type of presenter. And right now, you're not that biased. So I'm trying to say to you that your journey here comes to it. Whoa! I was gutted. I was angry.
Mm.
I was young, angry, and so I bought it. I left. I didn't have a job. I then joined a company called AdSet. They run radio stations inside supermarkets.
Okay.
They had one for Pick and Pay. They had one for Score. That's the one they employed me for. I remember they had offices in CTT. Paid me 11,000. It's a lot of money in those days.
Yeah.
What? What? I'm from Prime Media where I was earning 7,000 rand. You give me 11,000 rand.
Hey, you're not even commissioned.
No.
Yeah.
I'm running this radio station. I had Msizi Shembe as one of my presenters, AK Shabalala.
Mhm.
They were working for Y, but they do this retail radio thing on the side. And I was the manager. I wasn't allowed to go in there. I ran it for a while, and then I started a little fire around Romeo Kumalo's telephone.
Okay.
Somebody gave me Romeo Kumalo's number.
As usual.
I called Romeo. I phoned Romeo so much that I doubt, even today, there's ever been an individual who's phoned him so many times.
Sure.
And poor guy would answer the phone. Yes, hi, I'm in a meeting. Call him again tomorrow, same time. I need an opportunity. Towards the end, I think Romeo just got tired. Like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
Let me see you.
You've been consistent.
Yeah, so I went to go see him at Metro. And I remember when I called him, he said to me at 5 minutes. The 5 minutes in between meetings. I only see you for 5 minutes. Able to the SABC, got into an office with him, and with respect, I mean, I wasn't a name, you know. Romeo was just being himself in a busy space, accommodating a persistent young man. And I think I spoke to him for 4 minutes 30 seconds, and
Sure.
I stood up, packed my bags. I don't want to waste this opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, sit down,
Sit down. You're not done.
Yeah, I'm in. And then I joined Metro.
Mhm.
Initially, they gave me the graveyard, which I took from Penny Viviani, and I also did music for them. Then I ended up on the Sunday show. I was working with Wilson and Eddie Zondi. And then, one Sunday, I'm at home, I'm reading the newspaper of the new lineup, and my name isn't. And I knew I had the listenership. I never lost them any revenue, but for whatever reason, my contract after a certain time it wasn't renewed. I left Metro and was unemployed. I think for about 3-4 months. Resurfaced at Kaya through who? The same guy, the Muhammadin.
Oh wow.
I started pestering him. Now he was at Kaya, and he afforded me a meeting. And then after a meeting, I met the MD, and then they employed me initially as a producer for the morning show.
Okay.
I was producing wonderful lady, promoter KG Morgit. She wasn't happy with me. I think at the time she just wasn't happy with the movement of her producer, something
Yeah.
that she was very comfortable with. We do that morning, people. Khalito Sheikh, who was promoted. So I came in, produced KG for a bit, and I think we probably worked together for about 3 months. And then one day I'm upstairs, phone rings, reception puts it through to me, pick it up. Oh, by the way, even then, Kaya wouldn't give me a show. The story there was that I didn't have an African name. See, my mother, she got these two names. One was from the Catholic Church, and the other one was from her employers, and she just never got to name me herself.
An African name, yeah.
Yeah, like Patrick, Catholic name, and Warren. So what? But that's the name she gave me. So I get to Kaya, everybody's Komoto, everybody is Kwena, Marara, everybody's your PatCash. We're not gonna give you a show. So initially, after working as a producer for KG, then phone rings, picks it up, Bob Mabena. Hey, dude, don't tell anybody. I've just signed a deal. I'm coming back. First thing I say to him, get yourself your own producer.
Yeah.
You're
You're
too
not
high.
doing this.
Yeah, no, you're too high up there. I can't do this. No. Stick around. We'll help each other and I'll sort you out. Bob comes in. This was the first time I think he came back after the Tracy Going Bob Mabena show,
Yeah.
the original. He comes back. I work with him. I produce the show. I drive his desk. Bob was one of those Oleg Owen.
Yeah.
He
comes in and sits there, yeah.
My name is Bob Mabena, and this is Kaya FM, and I'm sitting there pressing the knobs. And I'm running his desk. I do the traffic. They let me do the traffic. So one day, I'm telling you the part about how I ended up on air
Yeah.
with Kaya. One day, South Africa played Nigeria. I think we lost 4-0. And then we were interviewing Brastyles Pumo, and typical Bob, he was doing the interview, was our strategy as good as it should be? Do you think the players bought into your plan and whatnot? And I could tell that, he's a good presenter, but we need a little bit more here.
Yeah.
So I
Bit
begged.
of fire, yeah.
I begged, because my microphone boom would be lifted up, so I could look at him.
Yeah.
So I begged. And eventually he says to the late Brastyles Pumo, and Dade Pumo, there's a young man here who wants to ask a question. I grabbed that microphone, pulled it down, and I went at Brastyles Pumo in Sesotho. Like, Dade Pumo, and he answered in Sesotho. It was so funny, and Bob cracked up. The thing about Bob Mabena was listeners, particularly women, enjoyed his laughter.
Yeah.
When he cracked up, their eyes went red, and people were like, "Hey, Bob," this is after the interview, "who's this young man?" put them on. And this is in the studio.
Mm.
And the request was that I should come in from listeners, come in on a regular basis and, make him laugh.
Yeah.
They enjoyed Bob's laughter. I mean, even towards the end of his career at Kaya, there's that signature laugh
Yeah.
that Kumba was able to bring out of him.
Mm.
And then they kind of let me in on the show on a regular
Gradually,
basis.
yeah.
They let me do the traffic and do other things, and we continued up until when Bob had to leave.
So this was his second time leaving.
Second time leaving. And they ran a poll on the internet as to who should replace him. I think Fresh was in the poll, Justice was in the poll. I don't remember who else. I was in there as well. And Fresh wasn't willing to take the deal. I think he came first. Justice came second. I came third. Fresh couldn't take the gig. He was at Y, comfortable. I don't think Kaya then is what
appealed to him.
Yeah, it's not part. It wasn't part of his journey. And then Ice, I think they couldn't agree on financials and who were they going to come to?
Yeah. So
They
third man standing.
That's me. So they came to me, offered me the show. I wasn't going to say no.
No.
We brought in a friend of mine, Ed Jordan, and then we started live.
This was 2000 and...
You know what? Time has moved so fast.
Time is not your thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Time moves so fast. Yeah. Moves so fast.
Yeah. So I think this was towards the latter part of the 2000s.
Yeah. Latter part of the 2000s.
Then you come. So then you leave Kaya FM after spending some time there.
Yeah.
Then you come to the Northwest.
Yeah.
As a programs manager and the morning breakfast show host.
Yeah.
On the then Northwest FM.
I wasn't originally a program manager.
Yeah. So it was because Mabena left.
No.
Okay. So there's a bigger story here.
There's a bigger story. After I left Kaya because of two strangers on a wedding, which didn't work. We had an amicable agreement and we walked away from each other. I'm still sore about it, but it's cool. Then I was making moves to go to a Gagas.
Okay.
And I was speaking to a lady, may Allah bless her, always called Sukulu. We were talking about me joining Gagas. And one day I read the newspaper and I saw that Pearl was also recruiting for the station in the Northwest Province. And the discussion there had been around, my ability to Mrs. and whatnot. My Zulu sound is very good, but I hadn't used it for broadcasting purposes.
Yeah.
So I then called Pearl back and was like, Pearl, can we go to Rustenburg?
Yeah.
Please, can I go to Rustenburg? Because I was born there.
Yeah.
And I was like, now you're messing up my thing. Please, Pearl. See, you're struggling there. So
yeah, and I'm comfortable there.
Comfortable there, man. We can do something. And then eventually we achieved this. I then moved to Rustenburg. It was 2008. The station went on air on the 28th of February, the last day of Feb. Originally, I was supposed to do the morning show, but when we were doing the finances, the station didn't have money, so they said to me, listen, do the morning show and music compiler.
Okay.
Something happened by the time I got to the station. I ended up doing the afternoon show and music compiling. I had been a music compiler as well at Kaya at some stage, at Metro at some stage. I would have started wanting to know that, the backside of the business from my days at 947. So when I got to Northwest FM, I played these two roles. One day, program manager left. Then they asked me, since you're taking care of the music, help us in this space.
Yeah.
Then I became a temporary program manager. Then they brought in somebody else, and I moved away, and then I came back. I was a program manager quite a few times during my time at Northwest FM. But my priority was really the afternoon show. After a while, I moved to the morning show. Up until the station eventually changed hands to where we are.
I mean, we followed your journey so far, and I picked up a trend here. The trend here is that you've got a knack for news. So whenever the news station is coming up, you happen to be in the mix. Has it always been your plan, or is it just by coincidence?
It's coincidence. It's luck as well. I'm one of the, and I can say this, I'm one of the luckiest, black presenters. I've had a great fortune of working with some of the smartest people. When I got to 94.7, when they were doing their training on music scheduling software called Selector, I would have gotten in there as well. When I got to Kaya, and Kaya had these wonderful consultants, Tommy Hedges and even Bob's Relationships, I'd always play into that space. So I suppose when I left Kaya and I came to Northwest, which was by pure luck, by the way. You know, if I hadn't spoken to Pearl, I thought my career was going to slow down a bit. Um, you know, so it's lucky. Lucky is the word.
Okay.
Lucky is the
All
word.
right. So you've got a luck for being part of the newbies that come up and that end up being quite big. Right?
Yeah.
If you look at 947, where it is today, where it started. If you look at Josie FM, where it started, where it is today. The then Northwest FM, which then rebranded to UFM, and we're looking at where it is today. So then you leave Northwest FM, and then you go back to campus radio as a. I think you started off as a program manager, and then became station
Yes.
manager.
Yes.
Did you go there because of I'm unemployed, or did you go there because there's something that you needed to do?
My situation at Northwest FM, you know, I felt at some point that, I'd done everything there. You know, I'd done the afternoon show, I'd done the morning show, and the station was riddled with politics.
Okay.
You know, and it was a very uncomfortable time that for me. And I figured I wanted to try and do something else. And I, then got an opportunity at Tax FM. And I don't know if anybody knows of that station. There isn't a community radio station in this country, and there's also probably 70% of the commercial radio stations in this country are not as well run as Tax FM.
And having it won as many awards as they have.
Oh yeah, I think we need to just clarify that. That was almost like tertiary for me, the radio in terms of administration. I learned a great part of my radio at Kaya. I'm gonna tip off a lot of people. You don't learn anything at Metro. It's just a big
It's
billboard.
a big institution, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big billboard, and you just go there and you become cool. At Kaya, Charlene Deacon shares important information that forms, and informs your position as a presenter, an important business call for the show that you're running. You understand about research and all these other trends. From Kaya, the next institution where I learned a great deal from is Taxa. So I got in there as a program manager, and I think a year later, my boss then moved on, and I took over the position. Very tough assignment. The station that was always playing grunge, alternative music, and during Fees Must Fall, the institution was put under pressure for transformation, and the station was a target, and you couldn't play that music anymore. And if you change the format, you'd lose the uniqueness of the station, which is what happened. But the quality of the institution remains, and I think it's just a question of time until they come across. Until they find their rhythm again. But I went to Tax FM because it was a lucky challenge. Until then, one day I was doing well. I was doing well. I was doing well, you know. Then I get a call one morning from a guy I hadn't spoken to in a long time. I don't know why he did that. Lawrence Tabai. But what do you want? You know, I'm working here.
Yeah.
Come
back.
Yeah. No, man. The changes that are happening at that station, you better come in. Then I left Dax before I could, properly complete my mission.
Yeah.
And then I came back to the last days of
The then
the then Northwest FM with the new owners and everything else. That's the journey from commercial to community and back to commercial. Yeah.
So Lawrence Lab and called you back to say, listen, I'll come back. And then you obliged, you came back. What was your reason for coming back? So maybe my question should be, so does your comeback then suggest that there's unfinished business that you wanted to fulfill back home, or what was it?
There's something I don't like about the media space in South Africa. It affects all sectors. There's an over-dependence on Johannesburg.
Okay.
And up until we realize with media in this country that regionalism has a role to play, then we're lost. I mean, look at arguments like Song of the Year. It's Joburg that decides, or Joburg stations, or SABC stations in Joburg that decide, you
Who
know,
gets the nod? Yeah.
who gets the nod. And even when you want to make a career, you got to go to Joburg. And I just never enjoyed this thing that all the big stations with all the respected broadcasters are in Johannesburg. I just didn't like that. I still don't. So coming back home, I've always had that wish that we should, prove that this province, the cradle of radio, and we cannot. Metro copied everything that Radio Bob was, and a lot of the black stations today still run on Romeo Kumalo's format, which obviously was, brought out of the days of Radio Bob. So for me coming back here is to say, listen, I can fight for my region, represent people in this region. I am, after all, born here, so plus family as well. I'm at an age where family is everything. I enjoy the luxury of being around my family, and also going into areas in the Northwest and changing stereotypes. Who says you can't be good and come from Ramakabang? Who says you can't be good and come from Soweto? Who says that? And for as long as I'm here, I'd like to represent that. I love the kids, that are coming up to know that there are people like me, born on the farms, who can go on and do great things, better things than what we've done. So I came back for that reason, and I'm not eager to move. I really am not. And also, in the advertising space, it's time that we speak this language with advertisers to say, just because I speak in an African language, I don't lose my social state. You can still sell me a BMW, in Setswana. You can still do that. I don't, and African language stations, or any station outside Johannesburg that has a component of African language, loses in the advertising revenue because of that perception that, oh no, babu ala Setswana, so ha ba itse smack, ha ba itse finer things. They don't go on holiday overseas and so forth. So it's a personal mission of sorts. I'm not back at home because I've given up on anything else. We still do great radio over here.
And I think also this ties in then to to the question that I always ask everybody at the end of our conversation. And that question is, so when you switch off the mic and then you hang up your earphones, what is that one thing that you want people to remember PatCash?
I'm a freedom fighter. I'm a personal freedom fighter. And I consider myself a free spirit. I mean, who do you know that used to support Kaizer Chiefs and support Orlando Pirates?
I should have asked you that question. I missed it.
Yeah,
I noted it down, but yeah.
For from my family's humble beginnings, for me to be able to be where I am, I'm not comparing myself to other people. It represents freedom. Along the way, I embraced Islam as well. Changed my name. I give a name from Patrick Warren, to Malik Maloyi, and struggling throughout the years, and my journey through radio and the difficulties and the good people that I've met, has placed me in a position where I'm very free. I've taught myself a whole lot of things, let go of so many prejudices of the past. I want to be remembered as that kid from the farm who let go of the tag of farm boy to become something. I'd love to be remembered as somebody who is not afraid of anything. I don't know if they're gonna call grades and mention my name there. No, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna look Tim Modise, David O'Sullivan, Bob Mabena, and I don't think so. But I walked my path. I was at 94.7. I was at Metro FM. I was at Kaya. I was at Northwest FM. I'm at UFM, and we're competitive. You can do that from any angle. We just need, I suppose, other components of the media to conspire with us and not look at the world from the Johannesburg perspective. You know, I'd love to be remembered as that fearless kid who came from humble beginnings to,
Being the greatest.
well, maybe media only. Maybe media only. The chairman is probably listening to me, double Opo, thinking, hey, he must be. Yeah, I'd love to own my radio station.
Yeah.
That's
What would you tell your younger self? If you had to look at the mirror and see your 13-year-old self or 15-year-old self, what would you say to yourself?
be patient, be humble, and pray for it. Those three things, my life would have turned out very differently had I implemented. I mean, I was a dad at a much younger age, 21. Yeah, you know.
Is that why there's no hair in your head?
Yeah. Yeah. Be patient. There are no shortcuts to the top. Pay your dues. Be humble. Be humble. I work for a station now. Our chairman, the Popoe, he's done very well for himself. If you didn't know him and I was standing next to him, you'd think I'm the millionaire. He's so humble. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Sometimes you want to say to him, dude, look at the money here, you know? But he teaches you that humility can open so many doors. And pray very hard. Pray very hard. And that's what I love about, you know, Islam, is that you build that relationship with Allah where you pray very hard and you pray often and it's honest and there's no one between you and Allah.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say to my younger self. And music. Please.
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up. That's the patience part. Yeah.
My good sir, thank you so much.
No, thank you for inviting
It's been an absolute pleasure. I think, you know, I've taken out, I mean, I've followed your journey over time. But this is the first time you and I get to sit like this. I think we've gone full circle because the first time we were engaged, I was sitting on where you sitting.
Yeah. How did I do that?
Exceptionally well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Shall drink to that. See?
So yeah, so may your star keep rising. May you achieve all that you want to achieve, and may your legacy, you know, continue to stand the test of time. So we are because you are, and I'm grateful that, you know, we've had to sit with you and understand that with great power comes great responsibility. That was my opening line. It's purely because, you know, I've learned to understand that because you understand the power of radio, the power of the medium that you find yourself in, you become a champion for those that can speak for themselves. You speak against social injustices, you speak against anything that stands to eradicate what we're trying to build as a society. And for that, I thank you personally.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
May you achieve all that you want to achieve. Keep shining.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity. I truly, truly appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
This was Conversation with Nnusi. Remember to subscribe to our channel. That's Conversation with Nnusi on YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. It's Nnusi Gazi. See you again next week.